Hey, this is Aaron with Quality Service Today out of Mebane, North Carolina. I'm going to be going over real quick why don't you have any water on a well pump system. So today, quick things you're going to probably need: multimeter. This is a UVI. I've always liked these. They work pretty good. Really needs to have a clamp. It's really hard to do this without a clamp. The old analog meters just add a whole lot of time and effort that's unneeded. This digital, a 6-in-1. 6-in-1 meaning it's got two different size Phillips. You got a 5/16 1/4-inch nut drivers on them. I like those. If not, you can just get flathead Phillips. And I got some Kneepex, I call them channel locks, but adjustable pliers. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to your pressure tank. You want to go to your pressure tank. A lot of times these are under the house, out by the well, several different places they could be. Alright, so we're at the pressure switch. I did a video on how to replace this pressure switch. You're going to want to watch that if you have an issue with this. So you're going to turn your meter to volts. One of the things you need to do, most well pumps, most submersible pumps are going to be 240, 220 volt. In a rare occasion, sometimes they're 115 volt. You can look at your breaker. If it's one of the fat double pole, double 20, double 30, usually it should be a double 20 amp breaker. It's going to be 240 volts. The other thing you can do is you can get your pump tag. You can go look at your well. It'll have a pump tag on it. Or sometimes there'll be a sticker, like this one has a sticker on it of what the well pump is, and you'll look at the voltage. You need to know the voltage, because if it's 240 volts and you're only getting 120, that's part of your problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this thing kind of to kick on. Kind of show you, because in most cases you're going to have these contacts right here are going to be closed when you don't have any water. When you get these closed, I got my meter on. One thing we can do while I do this is you're going to check incoming. So our power is coming from the breaker here, and this one. Make sure you guys can see that. So my switch is closed. I come out. I don't have any water. My switches, the contacts are touching. So we're gonna check. We're gonna check power. See the meter? We got 210 here. So 210 is acceptable to get the pump to run. That's a little bit on the lower side, but you're gonna check that. So you're gonna check incoming. All right, we got proper power coming in. All right, do we have power going out? So there's two things to do here. We got power going out to the pump. So we got power going all the way through this switch with the contacts closed. If the contacts are stuck open and you don't have any water, most likely you need to change the switch or the nipple. Sometimes that nipple going to the switch gets clogged. Or it could be a filter issue. So we're gonna focus on we got power going through this switch. If the power is not going through the switch and the contacts are closed like this, sometimes ants, debris, the switch will get burned up. A lot of times switch being burned up can be due to a bad pressure tank, leaks, things like that. So we check power. If power is not getting through this switch, it's most likely not a pump issue. If power is going through the switch, we're going to go out to the well. One thing we're going to do at the well while we're there is we're going to look for a pump identification tag or well tag, which looks just like this, usually stuck to the 6-inch casing. And on that, we'll go over that real quick. So on the side of your well casing, you have a pump identification tag or well tag. several things that these are good for. Don't lose that tag. So the pump tag says the brand, doesn't really matter. It does, I say that. It doesn't really matter for this aspect of it. You know your voltage, what depth the pump is hung at, the horsepower, and the date. You really need to know the horsepower and the voltage. The date is sometimes irrelevant unless somebody put it in and they didn't do a good job, didn't do something right. Good installed pumps should last 15 or 20 years. I've had people call me all the time, yeah, I changed it every 5 years. Something's wrong. I went over that in the pressure tank replacement video. I don't want to focus, I don't want to get off schedule too much with this. So what depth is hung at is good to know. If it's a half horsepower and it's hung at 350 foot, that's a problem. If it's a 1 horsepower hung at 100 foot, it's a problem. I'm going to do a video on how to size a well pump, but the pump needs to be sized properly. The reason you need to know what horsepower it is a half horsepower with a load is going to have kick on, usually start amps at around 20. So when you first kick the pump on, it's going to kick up to 20. When it is running, amps are going to be about 5, 6, somewhere in there. They can fluctuate. So one thing we want to look at is, we already know the voltage, we checked the breaker, we checked it at the switch. We want to be seeing amps. We want to see what the amps do when this thing kicks on. And that's going to help us determine what's going on. So one of the best things you can do is, if you have power and you don't have water or the switch is working, turn the breaker off for 30 minutes. Wait 30 minutes before you get into this, because you could have a low gallon a minute well, and I'm going to do I'll explain that maybe in another video or something of low gallon a minute well. We'll touch on it a little bit today. So let's go ahead and check the amp draws on this pump and see what we're doing and see what's going on. So one thing I did, and I do not recommend doing, is I've got my wires kind of exposed here, but this is just so I can show you what is going on. Most likely you're going to have a junction box. You know, you're going to want to remove this cover, get to the wires, and you don't have to unhook these wires out of the junction box. You're just checking amp draw. So a lot of times, you know, if these were connected, you'd be able to get your amp clamp in there. You're going to set your meter on amps. We want to know what the amp draw is. That's the setting on mine. Right now I have a different pump hooked up here. So we're out at the well. We got it hooked up. Like I said, a lot of times you'll be in a junction box. You need to get it prepared. So we're gonna kick our power on. If we got to have somebody up at the breaker, something similar, and we're gonna kick the power on. We're gonna see what startup is, and we're gonna see what running amps is. So we're gonna kick our power on. So this one didn't work really hard. It's such a small system. But as what we did here is, it kicked on, it was running at 4 running amps. So part of the reason that is, we're working with a little training facility here. It should be working. This is a half horse pump in here. It's normally going to start up at like sometimes as high as 15, 20, something like that. It'll drop down to about 6 if it's running properly. If you kick it on and it runs up to 30 amps and it shuts off and it never runs anything, they're just really high, and it shuts off, you still don't have any water. The pump's got to come out. If you kick it on and it doesn't draw any amps, it could be one of two things. Your pump could be burned up and it's not even trying to come on, or you could have a broke wire in the well. Either way, the pump really needs to come out. There is ways to test it, but more or less you're guessing. The reason that it really needs to come out is you're going to know 100% what's going on. So is what you're going to do is you can go ahead and check continuity. You just look at the beep. I think you see that. It's a little speaker. You're going to be listening for that beep. The ground, so you're going to get your wires. You're looking for a beep. This one has no beep. It's not beeping. Check one lead to ground, one to black. Switch these leads. You're going to listen for a beep. Show you what the beep sounds like. It's more or less making sure that the wire is doing a complete circuit. Listen for that, down hole. Okay? So, pump, if it draws high amps and shut-offs, most likely the pump's burn up. If it doesn't draw any amps, it's either one, the pump's not even trying to come on, it's that burn up, or it's a broke wire. That's why I said the pump's got to come out. So, recap, we got power to the well, we checked amp draw. It's not drawing, it's either drawing really high amps and shutting off, or it's not drawing any amps when we kick power onto it. So before we go pulling this, we're going to disconnect the cover. We're going to do just like we did. And we're going to check the incoming power. We're going to double check that we got 240 volts out here. Because if you got power at your switch and you don't have power at the wellhead, there's a problem with the wire in between the switch and the wellhead. So to pull this pump out, you're going to kill your power at your switch. You're going to go back. Sometimes you'll have a disconnect box, looks like this, with a little pull out right there at your pressure tank. There may be one at the well. You'll pull that out, or you'll shut the breaker off. You're going to undo the bolts. There's 4 9/16 bolts here. You're going to have to cut the pipe or disconnect the union. And you're going to pull the pump out. Now, these pumps can be extremely heavy. We have equipment. We have a well puller that actually hooks on this and pulls it out. I'm going to demonstrate kind of how we pull this out. Keep in mind, this isn't that deep. So you're going to loosen these bolts up. If it's 100, 200 foot, you're going to want some help. You know, we've got a machine that's about $6,000, $7,000 that pulls these out for us. So this is very small and short because it's in a trash can. Normally at wells, you're going to look at your well tag. If it's 100, 200 foot, a lot of times you can grab it. You don't want to kink this pipe. You grab it, 2 people. Somebody's going to grab the head, they're going to pull it out. Somebody's going to stand there at the well and pull it. If it gets up to, 250, 300, 500, you're going to need a machine or something. They're extremely heavy. But this is what I'm going to show you is, so once you get the pump on the ground, as you're pulling it, you're going to see where the water level was sitting. So on your well tag, you're going to have a static water level. Static water level is how deep the water is from where you're standing. So when you're pulling it out, you're going to see where that static was. Alright, so water's up where it needs to be. You can double check it. You know you had water. The issue was you weren't getting any amp draw. Is what you're going to do is you're going to peel these wires back. And you're going to cut them. You're going to cut them there, and you're going to see if you have continuity again. you're going to cut those wires right there at the top of the pump, and you're going to see, does it beep? If it beeps at the pump, so that would be in the case that you weren't getting any amp draw. If it beeps at the pump's got continuity. We're going to take our wires at the top of the wellhead. We're going to take our black and red wires. Remember, power's shut off here. And we're going to wire nut them together. And down at the pump, on the pump end, I can do this right here, but down at the pump where we cut the wires, I'm kind of covering two scenarios on one because they both result in pulling the pump. There's several other things that can go wrong, but down there at the pump, we're going to check continuity. And we're going to listen for a beep. So one end of these wires, the black and the red, need to be wire nutted together. We got continuity there. If it doesn't beep, you got a broke wire. You need to change the wire. A lot of people do repairs on that. Don't repair your wire in a well. It adds amp draw. It adds ohms to the pump. It's not good for the pump. You can do it, but I like to teach people how to do it the right way, not the Band-Aid. Let's fix it, because what'll happen is you'll be looking for down near the top of the pump, usually within 20 foot. You'll look for bare wire. It'll be broke. It'll look like somebody took a knife and skinned that wire, and it'll break. It's from every time, there again, if your pressure tank was bad, pump short cycles, that pump twists every time it comes on, and it'll slap the wire if it's not mounted right. A lot of times people don't put torque arresters on there. Again, thanks for watching. My name is Aaron with Quality Service Today. I'm in Mebane, North Carolina. I hope this video helps you out, helps you diagnose your well pump issue. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.